Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Town Council Budget Review to order. If you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Welcome this evening. This is the Town Council's opportunity to make adjustments, ask any final questions, discuss, and hopefully move forward with a budget. And so we'll be going through all of the different line items tonight to give everybody a chance. Hopefully folks have had a chance to consider it. We're kind of loosely on the agenda here, so because I understand Matt has to go to another meeting shortly, we were going to let him start off. Then we'll go to Paul McCallie for an overview discussion. And then from then, I'm thinking we'll just go through each tab and see what people have that they want to talk about. If there are any other questions or comments, now's a good time to bring them up. Seeing none. Matt, you want to talk about Parks and Rec? Or at least
Actually,
we'll bring you up and see if anybody has things they want to talk about with respect to Parks and Rec. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Parks and Rec,
Yeah.
we went over the budget pretty closely. Does anybody have any other additional questions for Matt?
So it's tab 13, in case you got lost. And like you said, we're not we're not looking for information from Matt unless you have questions. But if you have any concerns or changes or any final adjustments you'd like to recommend to the council, now would be the time to bring them up. I think we're all good. Matt, that was pretty simple.
All right.
Thanks for the effort you gave us in the previous review. You'll even make it to your meeting, so. Well, we could always bring it back up later in the evening, but you're probably safe. Okay, Paul, you handed out something and
Yep.
wanted to.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Lost mine already.
Yep. So I handed a packet to all the counselors, and basically for the, sorry, Nancy, I gotta take this off. For all the new counselors, this is something that we do, and it summarizes the budget and breaks it out into its different components. You'll see the general fund, and then you'll see wastewater and fire protection, police detail, and it goes through everything. And then on page 2, it talks about the CRF for wastewater, which is special, and then the wastewater phase 5 bond and the fire ladder truck bond to bring up the total appropriations for all funds. I am on this sheet, what I'm presenting is we talked about the equipment maintenance and solid waste being, since we have bought the trailers and since we have pretty new equipment with the loader and the bobcats and things, I think we can reduce the equipment maintenance line of 0109-8332 about $10,000. And then I'd also like, before we move on, I'd like to bring your attention to tab 5, communications. And if you would, it's page, if I can get there. That's code enforcement. It's actually page, sorry. It's page 54. Finley, for your viewing pleasure, it's 0105-8334 and 0105-8335. In 8334, it's the computer RMS, that $34,000. We were hoping that record management system, RS means record management system, would be online by beginning of July. Actually, we were hoping that would be online in March, but it doesn't look like it's going to be online until probably the beginning of July. With that, we get a year's worth of maintenance for free. So that $34,000 can be removed as an adjustment to the budget. And then if you look at 0105-8335, we have an upgrade agreement with SUAII, an annual preventive maintenance security upgrade services. That is for the 800 megahertz system. It looks like that system will be up and running around March, end of March. So we can prorate those two accounts there and get another $27,750 reduced, because once again, with those two systems, we get a year maintenance free. The radio user fee, that's the fee that we have to pay for Nashua. Right now, we don't have, Nashua hasn't moved on their agreement with us as of yet, but once they do move on that agreement with us, we're gonna have to pay it. We don't get a year free there, so that $33,120 should stay in the budget, but those other two we can reduce. It's $35,000, the $28,000 and $9,000 equal $35,000. We can reduce that by $27,750 to leave roughly $9,250 for those two maintenance agreements. And those are the three adjustments, or four adjustments, that I do have in the budget as of right now. I am still in negotiations with one union. I was hoping to have that wrapped up by now, but I'm still in negotiations. So I would like to hold off on bringing a proposal for non-union pay increase until I can get that union finalized. We'll hopefully be able to, I will be bringing that forward on the 10th of February, no matter what, for the public hearing. But right now, I am not proposing a pay increase for non-union, but just to know that that is in the forefront once I get this final contract either settled or we're at impasse. Page 3 of it talks about the tax rate. And right now, with everything, we know the tax rate is at $4.02. If we take into account these deductions of $10,000, the $27,750, and the $34,000, it'll probably, I don't have a number, but it'll be around $4. It will go down a penny. Little penny and a half, depending on where we are in it. I'll run that numbers through. So we're gonna be about either $4 or $4.01 moving forward. The next page on the, that in the little packet is media. Sorry, it's not headed, but like I said, I've been in union negotiations for most of the day, which I wasn't planning on doing today. But this is the media, and it starts out showing our fund balance in 1920 and moves forward. I misspoke the other day. I thought the unreserved fund balance was about $500,000 when the question was asked. That was the beginning balance of the 2021 year. At the end of 2021, it's $361,607. Running the numbers through this year of $150,000 in revenue, we're projecting $5,000 in interest. Appropriations are $330,460. That will reduce the fund balance by $175,460 to come up with an estimated ending balance as of June 30th, 2022 of $186,147. In the 22-23 budget, I do have $250,000 that I was using out of the franchise fees to help offset the tax rate. Please give me some time. Revenues, while we try to do a tax rate in total, but revenues don't have to be finished by September. However, I will be bringing back a revenue number for you and going through and looking at options for you by February 10th. So you'll know what the revenue number for this is. Whether it's a combination of reducing that 250 to another number or other revenues. I know that I do have some other revenues that I can look at, and I haven't had time to talk to some department heads to see if they think they're reasonable. And I'm hoping to do that over the next week. So I was hoping to do it today, but I was not stuck, but I was in union negotiations and I couldn't do this.
So are you talking other revenues where you could reduce what you're taking out of the media fund balance to offset taxes and replace it with something else?
Yeah, something else that would help offset the taxes as well. So I have some ideas, but like I said, I have to talk to the department heads to see if my ideas are feasible. One idea, and I'll just throw it out there because I know it's feasible, is that our restaurant licenses. In our ordinance, when we talk about restaurant licenses, it attaches to an RSA up at the state level, and it says the fee will be what the state is charging. Well, we haven't changed our restaurant licenses in a couple of years. However, the state's changed what they're charging for a restaurant license. I just have to go through and see what that increase would be to offset this number. You know, I looked at a couple of those items. So it's, looking at it, I guess what my question to the council would be at this point is that what I'm projecting is with fund balance of 186,147 in the cable media in the cable media department. Is the council willing to have that number be less and maybe be around 100,000 or 75,000, or are they looking at keeping it at $186,000? Because that would be part of my opinion in when I bring up other revenues as well. We could reduce the 250 to say 150, which would still leave some money in the fund, in a fund balance, or we could just move the full 400 and come up with the 250,000. Does that make sense to the council, or do I have to explain it a different way?
Different way.
Okay. So right now, there's $400,000 estimated revenue for cable franchise fees. And cable franchise fees is 3.75% of what Comcast charges. So we project around $400,000. What I have in my budget presentation is I have $250,000 of that 400 going to offset the tax rate. So that would leave $150,000. If we do not take anything out of the cable franchise fund balance, the media fund balance, the starting balance is $186,147 projected. If I don't take anything out, looking at the 400 and what we have going forward in the budget, that would be a $22,000 add to fund balance surplus, or to be at $208,000. My question to the council is, where do they feel comfortable with the fund balance? Is $200,000 a good number? Is $100,000 a good number? That would change what I bring forward when I present. I can present all those options to you if you'd like me to. It's kind of like our fund balance discussion where we want to be between 4 and 8%, but the council is really happy to be around 6%, and we're trying to get to that 6% number. So we've been working on reducing the general fund balance. That's the same kind of discussion here, is where does the council feel comfortable with the media fund balance? Is $100,000 they feel comfortable, or $200,000? I'll shut up.
Go ahead. All right. I've always been concerned that this fund is going to start gradually shriveling up and going away.
Oh, definitely.
So I don't know what the best position to be in would be. You know, if we cut it short, we're going to be potentially causing a premature problem, I guess. And so I need some guidance on that. I don't know. I mean, if the number seems to be staying relatively steady, then I guess, you know, but
No, but it's not. I mean, it's been dropping
right.
and would go negative if we continued with the 250, as we talked about last week
Yeah.
with the media budget.
Right. The revenues have been pretty steady. They've been between $383,000 and $400,000. We get at about $385,000. I had a discussion with Nicholas, that is in the back room. There he is. He's taping us. He just waved to me. I had a discussion with Nicholas, and there are three groups. They're the group that are kind of streaming, kind of have cable for backup. There's the group, the younger generation. I'll stream everything. I'll go to Netflix, I'll go to Hulu, I'll go to Amazon Prime, I'll go to Paramount Plus, I'll go to Disney, I'll stream everything. And then there's the other generation that 100% cable. I need cable. I need cable, I need my cable TV. I don't understand how streaming works, and it's too complicated. I want that. I think, yes, people are cutting the cord. We heard that discussion from Nicholas maybe 3 years ago, that how people are going to cut the cord. Will that change 3, 4, 5 years from now? Potentially. But I think until people can feel comfortable with streaming and feel comfortable to get their local channels, that's always the problem, is the local channels. I can get news from New York City, but I can't get the, how do I get the weather? How do I get my local news? And if I guess they're starting to work on a local stream with my local to Roku and things of that sort I saw advertised. So that's one of the potential hurdles that I see. Until we can get the local area newses streaming, that would be one hurdle. The other hurdle is that we do have a lot more building and apartments going in place now. With that increase, that's been helping us keep that steadiness of the cable while people are dropping off. Not every one of those apartments is going 100% streaming. They get some kind of cable and some kind of 2-year deal or a year deal with Comcast. Well, with Consolidated coming into town and their fiber upgrade throughout New Hampshire, will that take away some people and move them to streaming? 100% yes. Do I have a number? No, I do not. But right now, all our projections are between $350,000 and $400,000 of revenue.
Andy?
So if we use that assumption, let's assume for a second that revenue stays within what it's been. I know there's going to be some puts and takes with Consolidated coming to town, but we've got some apartments coming online. So let's just assume for a minute that we stay steady for the next few years. If we take the 250, 150 for a total of 400 out of the fund balance this year, but next year leave it alone, with the projected revenues, does that fund balance then begin to grow again?
Slowly, yes.
Depend-
Slowly.
Assuming that
It would go
budget
negative
stays
this
under
year, though.
400, it would be negative
It
this
would
year?
be negative this year if we took the 250, is what this yellow column is showing. He's removed taking that 250
Right.
from the 400 there. So that's saying that we don't take anything, we still only go up to 22,000.
Right.
So to keep it
The
even
difference
with where it is
between the
right
budget,
now, all we can take
378
is
and the
22.
400.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want a flat line.
Yeah, but
yeah.
so obviously, if we proceeded with what's currently in the budget, we're gonna draw that fund balance down.
To zero.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh, yeah,
To negative.
there's gonna have to be a revenue adjustment, because because it would be contraproductive to take 250 out of revenue and then draw this into a negative, because then we'd have to,
And then put 25K back. or
yeah,
something,
and put the money back in, because it
Yeah,
would
I
just
think
come
we
out of
got it.
taxpayer money at that point, so you would take out a revenue number.
Yep.
Right. So if we want to keep, right now, the media department budget is going to be a little, about break even. If we stay with between $385,000 and $400,000. They have $378,000 in the 22-23 budget. So it's almost break even. It's like a $9,000 swing there.
the 250 that we're using to offset taxes, what does that have for a rate impact?
About 5 cents.
But you have some ideas of
I have some
maybe-
ideas to help offset that 5 cents. I do.
What if we put it down to 150?
We'd still go in the hole. I mean, if we don't take anything, there's a net positive 22. So that's all we could take and not take anything. We could take 200 out and it would just zero out that.
Right.
But it would go down to zero instead of being around 200. And I think, as Paul's asking, there's some number that we probably ought to come up with as
So,
a
if we,
kind of a buffer.
if we don't take anything, we increase the fund balance by 22K,
Yeah.
right? But the balance itself would be 208K.
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct.
I started to say that wrong and tried to correct myself mid-sentence, and it probably didn't work out well. Barbara?
I think maybe I've lost a piece of information.
Barbara, microphone, please. Thank you.
Because isn't media supposed to be budgeted through the franchise fees? That's what pays for our media department. That was my understanding.
That was the original intent.
Okay, so you're talking about kicking back. Right now, it will take just about everything that's in the fund balance to pay for the budget that's proposed right now, as of this moment. correct? And so where are we gonna get the extra money if you leave money in the fund balance?
They have revenues coming in from cable franchise right now. And what I'm saying is that we divert $250,000 to general fund from the cable franchise fees. What I would say is that there is a number, and I'd have to work on that number based on the fund balance number that the council would like, that we could divert or not divert. We could let zero money get diverted from the cable franchise fees and have the full $400,000 as shown in this yellow column. And like the other, Councilor Koenig and Councilor Hunter said, would have a fund balance of $208,221 from there. And they would be able to be self-sufficient. And the cable franchise fees then would be paying for the cable appropriation and budget every year. And there would be no offset to the general fund or diversion of revenue, which we have used in the past. And we've used this for several years. We've used this for going back to Keith Hickey days as town manager, so that's going back 11, 12 years now. I think that's when it started. The council started to reduce that fund balance because it was growing significantly. And we started out 100 and it went to 150 and then it went to 200. In the last 4 or 5 years, it's been at 250 to bring that fund balance down.
But the hazard of going, we've been taking pretty good chunks.
Yes, we
Yes.
have.
In multiple places, and the hazard with that is, like the 8 million we got back from the school district, there's no money to make that up at some point, and so, except in the property tax rate, and gets me a little shaky.
Yeah.
For me, I would like to see what the alternate sources of revenue before we made a decision on what we do with the 250 that's currently set aside to offset taxes.
Okay.
And then when
My-
we see that, we make a decision on which way to go. At least my
My concern,
opinion.
the way we're set right now, it'll go in the hole by $42,000. And, or 25, some number, we'll end up having to make up
Yeah,
some amount if we don't change anything from the way the budget is currently written.
yeah. But, I mean, for me, if Paul comes and says, hey, I've got this great source of revenue and I can replace the 250, then I say we leave that 250 alone to go back to the media fund balance.
So the question Paul asked, and I would like to get a feeling from the council, is where should that fund balance be? Is 200,000 the right kind of a number, or is it 100,000?
Right.
Or-
That's what I'm asking. Is it 150? Is it 200? Is it 250? Is it $5?
Is it used for anything other than to smooth the budget, year-over-year budget numbers?
Well, this-
Is it used for anything else?
It's just used for the media fund, and then we're diverting money to bring down this fund balance. Because when this started, this fund balance was almost $1 million. It was like $960,000.
And growing.
And growing.
And growing, because the media budget back then was 200,000 or less, and their income was 300,000 or more, and so it would keep growing. So we started to pull money out of it
Right.
and give it back to the taxpayers, because the taxpayers are paying that money, or at least the ones that are paying for cable,
Right.
paying those fees in their bills, and so we thought it should go back to the taxpayers. But
And the other thing the
But we
council,
knew this day was coming.
yeah, we did, and the council also reduced the
talking about it.
franchise fee
That's right.
5%.
from 5 to 3.75, which also helped
That's right.
keep the fund balance number
okay.
That's right.
from growing, because it was at 5%.
That's right.
So the issue today is that I didn't realize we got this far down already, and I don't think any of us really did. And so now we're finding ourselves wondering, is maybe 200, which is about half of their annual budget, is probably the right number to have in a fund balance.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I looked at the 500,000, we were still doing the audit,
Thought
I'm
we
like,
had another year to go,
$500,000, I thought I had one more year. And I'm like, oh, when I saw that, the other day, I'm like, let me look into that to make sure, and I went way back doing this stuff, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention there, but I will bring suggestions.
But I would agree with Tom. I think 200 is a good working number.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Mr. Chair.
oops.
Lon? Sorry.
Yeah, I think I'm following the discussion, but I'm not used to being asked to do something either for 1 year or for the future without something to hang it on more than maybe we don't need this much, maybe we need more, maybe something's being reduced. So I'm confused about what we're accomplishing. I understand what we've done in the past, and I understand the fund got topsy-turvy, if you want to use that, let me use that. Now it's down to, hey, folks, a little more reality. Let me peg it on what I'm most concerned about. Most of this other pages in this budget, I can look at 3 and 5 year averages or whatever it is we've done and know whether or not I think things are in whack, or in or out of whack. Saying to me, cable franchise fees are changing, competition's becoming broader, things are going to change. Okay, how much? In other words, where do I start from? I've got your $400,000 figure, I've got your last year's balance, but I don't know where to go with that. Thank you for listening.
I don't think any of us do, and my concern is that if our cable franchise fee cut off completely, either because they didn't have to pay it anymore or everybody cut the cord, we're kind of hooked on this media division and the information and the work it does and stuff like that. So we're, if you will, pregnant with them, and we can't get rid of them.
I'm not talking
know.
against them
I
at
know.
all.
I understand you're not. I'm just saying that at some point down the road, the worst case is it's just going to be part of the budget, and it's not going to be a self-sustaining fund. Right now, while they have an income of $380,000 to $400,000 and a budget of $380,000 to $400,000, it's a balanced deal, and we leave a little bit of money in their fund. Then there's a little bit of float in case they need to go out and buy a major piece of equipment or something like that. We could just take it out this year and not do anything else and just continue to fund whatever the difference is through the tax rate, like we are with every other department, highway and police and stuff like that. I mean, it's just a matter of where we want to try and think of it. But we've been looking at it as a self-supporting fund because it had a source of revenue. But that source of revenue could dry up on us if we don't have to, if cable people don't have to come sign a franchise agreement 5 or 10 years from now, or whenever, that changes, or if everybody just quits buying cable.
I think
So,
that's the
we don't know.
dilemma, in my opinion. We don't know. That is the dilemma we're into. If we had a sense that there was gonna be some stability in 2 or 3 years, then we could leave it unchanged. Or even maybe build it up a little more, because 2 years from now, the contracts are done and there's not gonna be any more money. So we're just gonna build that up a little bit. But that's the dilemma, which is, but,
I'm not used to doing
oh, okay, well,
Neither are we.
I'm not trying to be obtuse.
Nicholas.
I'm just
No, no.
saying, what am I? Thank you, Andy. I'm just saying, what are we shooting for?
that's the question.
Okay, thanks.
That is the question.
The three of us are in 4 different places at once, but I was out back listening to the discussion. Tom and Nancy essentially said exactly what I was going to say, is that, and I think Finley touched on it too, is that I personally, as the media services coordinator, feel that the reserve fund should be at least 1 year of operating costs. That's what I think I've said the past 2 or 3 years each time I've presented the budget. That's where it should be. In case franchise fees were to go away tomorrow, then we would have at least 1 year of operating expenses without having to go on the tax bill. That's how I feel. However the council feels, or the town manager feels, where that reserve fund should be at, that's your decision. But that's just my feeling, is that it should really be 1 year of operational costs.
Which makes reasonable sense to me, actually.
Yeah.
And we're not there, of course.
Right.
No.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that,
But we do.
that's a good idea. It's difficult for us to get back there at this
Right.
point, since your budget had gone up by 90,000 over the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And so, by almost a quarter, and so.
But
I'm
I'll,
thinking if we hold it where we're at and see where we can go. I mean, even this year alone, just bringing in another part-time to full-time transition is bumping your budget by $40,000 or $50,000. And that's making it yet more difficult. That's why there's only a 22K
Right.
increase this year if we don't take anything out. You know, otherwise it'd be a 75 or something, and you get close to your annual pretty
Right.
quick. But as your expenses go up and your staff expands in order to fill the needs of what Merrimack wants and would like to see, it's gonna cost. And at the moment, unless we can find another source of revenue, I don't know how we're gonna make that up.
Right, understood. And I should point out that the intentions behind that were always good. Same reason with one of the reasons why we reduced the franchise fee. We were getting the full 5%. We reduced that to 3.75% because at the time, you know, we were
Yep.
receiving more money than we necessarily knew what to do with or what the town had expectations for this department was. And even, you know, cutting down that reserve fund made a lot of sense too, because we were kind of level funded each year for quite a while. But, you know, as you've seen these past 2 budget cycles, things are very different in the media division, and now there's different expectations moving forward, so.
Especially with COVID impacts, yeah.
Exactly. And also just how people consume media and what sort of content they want to see on the channels and
Yep.
how they can stay informed and everything, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Paul, did you want to add something?
I was just saying that, you know, 208, yeah, we're not 100% covering it, but remember, there is a $29,000 in his budget that goes to cover finance and everything else. If he was on the tax rate, that wouldn't be there. There's $55,000 in operating equipment. That's one-time use that, pull that out, now you're looking at $75,000, so now you're down at $300,000. Like Tom said, another $40,000 for the position, you had 250 versus 208. You know, so you can get there on $200,000, is what I'm saying.
But
When you
that-
look at it,
That's effectively saying we don't take anything more out to reduce taxes.
to reduce taxes,
from-
yes.
From this year
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
Until we have a better chance to see where that's going in the next probably
Yeah.
3 or 4 years.
Right. So, you know, just because it says 300 or 330 or 328, that also, like I said, that includes those couple extra things that would go away. And then we'd have to look at it, like we look at, do we need an X-mark mower this year or not in highway? Would be the same thing in media at that point. We'd look at those things. So, I did want to bring it forward to you because I knew we were talking about this. I know it affects the tax rate. It doesn't affect the appropriation side of the house, but it does affect the tax rate side of the house because it's a revenue that we're helping to offset. But I did want to bring it forward, and I wanted to have this good discussion. I think I do have an understanding that you would like options. And I have a wide berth to bring those options. Whether we keep no money in there, we bring down this fund balance down a little bit more, whatever. I have a wide berth and I'll bring you those options. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Okay, any other comments? No.
So he's got his number?
Pardon?
To be determined.
TBD. Great.
I can blame COVID. Everybody else does.
Everybody else does, yeah.
So I ran the numbers of taking into account those two other adjustments that I said that we can make in the communication budget. And it is a $4, we went down a penny on the tax rate. The tax rate's down to $4.01 if the council chooses to accept those 3 reductions.
That are on your page 1.
The 10,000 on page 1 and the 2 others that I talked about.
Okay.
Are we voting on those?
Do you want to
tonight?
deal with those when we get to those groups?
It's
those-
it's up to the town council how they want to deal with it.
You can do it and get it away with.
We'll just hang on to it then, and we'll look at it when we get there.
Okay.
So I kind of misdirected by inviting Matt up. If there's no questions or anything, we don't need to invite you up. But if you have questions or you want to defend anything that we're talking about, you're welcome to come up and join the conversation when we get to your department, if that's okay with everybody. Otherwise, we just have people running around for no particular good reason. So why don't we just start with tab 1 in general government and see if there's any adjustments or questions that people have from the town council on the budget. I see people still flipping to those pages, so I'm going to give you a few more moments to get there and think about if you had anything you wanted to bring out. Seeing none? No, I'm sorry, go ahead. Barbara?
So, looking at general government, line 8143, employee incentive / raises, that number is higher than it's been in the past. So, is there a particular theory behind it?
Yeah, that number's been put in there because there are some adjustments that would need to be done. In case there's some adjustments that need to be done for certain positions. We've talked about some of these positions in the past. The ladies in the tax collector's office was one of the ones that we talked about in the past. That is really in case we need to have adjustments being made. It gives the town manager in the budget some flexibility to come to the council and ask for those adjustments to be made to wage scales. And that's where it just sits in general government for all of the general fund.
That'd be for anywhere.
For anywhere. For instance, not that he's leaving, but if our police chief leaves and I have to hire a new police chief and I have to pay a little bit more money than what's in the budget, the money would come out of that. Or if, highway, somebody from highway, I can't use that example, but if somebody from general government leaves and I need, and have to pay a little bit more money, that's where that money would come from. So it's to kind of help out a little bit. This year, it helped out when we had to hire a new fire chief. Some of that, that's where some of that extra money that was budgeted, on top of what was budgeted, came from.
Did that answer your questions?
Yeah, and I
Okay.
have a couple more as well.
Go ahead.
So on 8334, maintenance office equipment, that is substantially higher than what's been in that cost center before. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, in years past, we used to absorb the time clock plus the time clocks for DPW, town hall, that's $6,500. We absorbed that through other areas throughout the budget. This year, we're actually budgeting for it.
Okay.
I can get you.
Time clock.
Right here.
I know. You want, hold on.
The answers are all right here.
There you go. You want to give the plug, Finley?
You know, I actually looked in there, and I don't know if I was looking in there wrong, but I mean, I've done spreadsheets, but I couldn't figure out where those answers were.
Well, there are notes.
There's little triangles that do pop up here and there,
Oh,
and
yeah.
most of them are noted. This one says, per Tom Boland, annual maintenance not including prior year's budget. And it shows the line
Okay.
of 65,000.
6,500.
65, what did I say, 1,000?
Don't scare me.
The numbers are killing me right now tonight, so it's.
Me
I'm
too.
just thoroughly impressed it's Finley that's the
Well,
one.
I'm
I
impressed
know,
with
That's
it,
high-tech.
because I was the last one to get a smartphone in this group.
Yeah, the flip phone for the
You
longest
did have
time.
a flip phone. until last
Well, at least
year.
you got rid of the sparkly cover.
So anyhow, sorry.
Barbara?
And then my last one was education and training, which is 8352. Should have brought my reading glasses instead. And that was a pretty substantial increase as well.
It's the same as last year, but it was an increase from the year before, from the actual.
Right.
In 2020-21,
I guess what I'm saying is the budget, whatever is budgeted, isn't being used.
right, but
So why don't we cut that?
because in 2020-21, we had a lot of travel, education classes canceled, and they weren't online because of COVID. The other thing is we have townwide non-union college tuition program. We have 69 non-union employees that can go back to college, and we budget $7,500, $7,500, I should say. I don't know if it's the case in 2020-21, but sometimes we don't use that money. Other times we spend that money by January 1st. So that's also a potential why we just keep that at the $13,650.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for general government? Seeing none, I think that goes as written for now. Which brings us to assessing, number 2. And I think the biggest thing in assessing is a change in the capital reserve, or am I thinking the right place? Any questions on 2? No. Seeing none, we'll move on. Brings us to fire. We had a big discussion on fire last week. Any thoughts or adjustments there that people found or think they need?
I apologize, Paul, because I know I sent you this question and you responded, and it's on my phone, and I walked out of the house and left my phone at the house, so I don't have your response. I am still concerned at the shape of the South Fire Department. And I would like to make sure somehow through this budget that we did something to improve the exterior of that building.
Okay. Yes, there is some stuff. There's $18,150 for building grounds and repairs, and that's for all 3 stations. The fire chief is here. I've had conversations with him on that. He could tell you, just like I'm gonna tell you, and if I'm wrong, he'll stand up and start yelling, but he gave me his word that if something needs to be repaired over there, that we can repair it. A couple of years ago, we put new windows in the place and fixed that up. The fascia board, I did notice that, looks like it does need to be repaired. And we could look at replacing some of the exteriors and looking at things of that sort. We do have some items that we need to fix over there, as it relates to water drainage and things of that sort, that we're working on fixing. So, the fire chief is committed to doing what's right for being down there, as well as I am committed for what's right down there.
And that's all I need to hear.
Okay. Any other comments on the fire? Seeing none, we'll move to communications. What? Pardon? Police?
Yeah.
Huh? Police.
Deputy Chief Tarleton says you could skip over police if you want, just move to communications.
04, I just flipped too far, so police. Anybody have any comments, adjustments, changes, or requests?
One question, so in the police, there's an additional dispatcher. I think we.
Not in police.
Oh, in communication?
It's in communications.
I'll wait.
The thing that bothered me most was the ammo cost, but I don't know that we can do much about that. It's gotten absolutely crazy,
Yeah, they're
so
going through the roof.
it's,
And we go out to bid, and what do we get, 2 vendors, 3 vendors? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. The ammo bids.
Yes,
3 vendors?
We're down pretty much to one that we've been dealing with a
Right.
lot lately in New Jersey.
And he's the only one who can get us our ammo.
If you can find it,
Yeah,
yeah, if you can find it.
right.
All right. Any other thoughts or concerns? There's an increase in job-related training and seminars. I think those are important. You took out the new handguns
Yes.
that they had requested.
Yeah, we're buying them out of this year's budget through their savings of open positions, so,
And we're getting three police cars in this budget,
correct.
but not an administrative.
No administrative vehicle at this time.
Okay. And no more pickup trucks. Any other, did you have a question, Finley?
I do.
Or a comment?
On 8,300 tolls for unmarked vehicles, it actually was increased $2,000, but I was just wondering why, where most of our tolls are history at this point.
That's going up to Concord.
12 grand a year.
No, that's meetings,
Meetings.
is 12 grand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking one line over.
Huge amount of
Right.
tolls.
It's $350.
I've got it. No, I'm sorry. I wouldn't have even asked the question had
No,
I
On
paid
paper, you
better
get a line
attention.
across there. that you
And
can see that
the
easily.
reason,
I can use my rulers.
and
That's
that,
the type. Sorry, I would have never even called it
but
out.
honestly, people ask, why does the town, modern municipal vehicles pay tolls? It's an unmarked
It's unmarked
car.
vehicle, yeah.
It's an unmarked vehicle. We have the transponders, but if we go to Concord, we have to pay the toll. And it's very rare that we do pay the tolls, but it's there for $350.
That's good.
Okay.
It's for the pickup truck.
Okay. All right, seeing no more on police at this point, we'll move on, which does bring us to communications, I think. Is that right? Yeah. Now you can ask
So
your
now I
question.
can ask, I would like to I would like to know, what is the impact if we do not include the additional dispatcher this year?
Okay.
What are the operational impacts?
I'll let Deputy Chief talk about the operational impacts. I'll just give you why the position's in the budget. About 2 years ago, Town Manager Cabanel put together a committee to look at communications. One of the issues that was brought up, besides that the radio's not working in certain parts of the town, was that at midnight, they only have one person in dispatch. And that person's handling police calls, fire calls. If they have to use the bathroom or they have to heat up a meal, they have one of the other, either the night lieutenant or sergeant would have to come in and sit and man dispatch while the person's either in the bathroom or operating. That was one of the things that were brought up by the committee to move forward. The police chief brought that forward in the budget this year as a position. And because it was in this committee that we came together in agreement that we should have 2 dispatchers on at a time for safety and for that person not having to wait 5 minutes because the lieutenant might be tied up with something to come upstairs if they have to use the bathroom. Operationally, the deputy chief can talk about that.
I really think you covered all the bases, to be quite honest. It's, you know,
He
the
does
town.
that.
Yeah, the town's growing. The call volumes it been increasing. It's just going to get worse. And honestly, we really need to have another person in there overnight. To do it with one person or continue doing it with one person, I think we're rolling the dice. And it's a lot to juggle on your own. Especially, we've had a couple fire calls, and, you know, that's a pretty serious thing to be dealing with.
Yep.
And, you know, the town doesn't go on timeout when the fire call. You still get the 911s, you still get the phone calls, walk-ins even at 3 a.m. happen, and it's just a lot to juggle on your own. So I think it's really important that we move forward with having at least 2 people in there on the overnight. I
And we
really do.
And we do have 2 people, correct me if I'm wrong, but on Friday and Saturday night, we do put a part-time person covers those shifts. So
Correct.
this would be Sunday through Thursday.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Thanks.
And that's referring to the 8136, $76,000 number,
Yeah, that's
loaded cost to bring in a new
new
dispatcher,
dispatcher, yes.
which is not just salary, it's also benefits
Health
and
insurance,
everything else.
dental, retirement.
Okay, so this was where Paul suggested a $34,000 reduction in 8334 and a 27,750 reduction in 8335.
So you need a motion, right?
So we need a
Correct.
motion to make
So
those
moved.
adjustments. Motion made by Nancy.
Second.
Seconded by Andy. To make those reductions a total of
1,750.
61,750 in the budget coming out of the 8334 and 8335 lines per the discussion from Paul earlier. If there's no other discussion on that, we'll call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 700. Is there any other comments or questions on the communications budget? Seeing none, we'll move on. So you've got that reduction in there. Okay. That brings us to code enforcement. I'm just going to go through these linearly, so they'll jump around through some departments, but it's easier for me to flip through that way. Code enforcement, does anybody have any comments or suggestions on code enforcement? And I didn't mention early on, but any changes that we do want to make, we'll vote on as a council to move it forward, if you didn't realize that already. So just, we'll discuss anything, but actually take a vote to move any, to make any changes. Seeing nothing in code enforcement, we'll move on to DPW admin. Oh, we ought to get something out of here. Sorry, I looked up at Kyle just to laugh. And he grinned back. Any suggestions on Public Works Department admin? Seeing none, we'll move on to highway. Any changes in highway? There were a lot of questions and discussions about highway, but they have a new equipment operator they're wanting to bring in, and I think they justified it in the discussions that we had, but just pointing that out. Part-time custodian. Excuse me, Barbara.
Yeah, on line 8201, office supplies. Are we ordering something different to account for the increase?
8201 shows that it's been flatline budget for the
Yeah.
last 3 years, but it's been about $424 more.
Yeah, but in 2020, it was 1776. 2019, it was $32. And now, even though it's been the same request for the last several years, apparently it's not being used. So do they need to get the entire 22?
Okay.
Just putting it out there.
No, I'm looking at what you're doing.
If you go further back, though, it was 2000 and then 1787, I mean, if I'm looking at the right numbers.
Correct. We could ask, I have Lori Barrett, the operations manager of Highway, and Kyle here. Sorry, Sarita, you don't get included in this one. If what they are buying in that division, and notice that we do have an extra individual from last year's budget who started halfway through this year, stormwater foreman. So we do have another person who would be using ink and paper and and office supplies in that manner. The stormwater foreman will be working closely with Kevin Anderson, our stormwater person in DPW, to come up with our MS4 and making sure our MS4 permits are done properly and things of that sort. And Don, but Lori is here. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We missed you during the presentation.
I missed you too.
I like that smile. It looks good,
I
Kim.
wasn't having any fun.
Oh, no, I'm sure.
We also took equipment maintenance's budget for this and put it in highways. So equipment maintenance is zero. It's zeroed out, and it's now included in this budget.
So I guess the question is, are you concerned that the 2,200 is too high and you want to make an adjustment? Or are you just trying to understand the number itself, or?
Well, I was asking why it's increased, why, if we're not using it, why budget for it? And if they think they're going to spend that, that's fine.
Definitely
guess-
on copy paper and binders. We do a lot of training and binders for our equipment.
Is your mic on?
Yes.
Sorry,
Thanks.
don't speak loud enough. We don't have time cards anymore, but we do have daily worksheets that we like them to fill out. So there is paperwork that we need to do in file folders.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
See, it's the chair.
Okay. I'm okay. Any other questions about highway? Sand and salt is up significantly. We removed the sidewalk for Twin Bridge. Just, there's, because of work that's gonna go on, I don't know if it makes sense to push that at this point. If there's no other questions, we'll move on. Solid waste, 09.
Yes.
Yeah.
8332.
Yeah, we had talked about that because of maintenance of vehicles. A lot of their vehicles are very new.
Newer.
So we thought maybe we didn't need to go quite that high on the maintenance budget.
So you're asking for
He's suggesting a
$83.33.
$10,000 reduction.
Yes.
If people think it should be that or something different,
Which one?
we just need a motion. It's
8332, this one.
8333. 8333, sorry.
It was 30,000 last year. The department asked for 40. We're thinking we probably don't need that this year. And they agreed.
Because of the.
Because of
Newer
the
equipment.
The newer
Okay, I'll make the
equipment.
motion to decrease the line item for 8333 by $10,000, making it 30,000. Is that accurate?
Okay,
Paul?
motion by Nancy, seconded by Barbara, by Nancy. Nancy and Nancy,
Nancy
Harrington
Square.
and Murphy. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Or, Lon, you're opposed to that reduction? Or abstaining? That passes 6-1-0 with Lon Woods in opposition. Anything else in solid waste? Finley?
Give me a second more.
No, that's fine. Take your time.
I think I just need a better feeling about the structure. I know it's the old construction trailer. When the transfer station was built, I understand all that. But I didn't know,
We can get you a better answer right now on it.
You talking about the office trailer?
yes.
Yeah.
Kyle's here because on that.
Like,
Hi.
sorry, I didn't have my
there a specific question, or
No,
do you want me to just talk about
Turn the
it?
mic back on.
I didn't have my mic on earlier, I apologize for that. The office trailer, I mean, is the roof collapsing? Because I'd almost like to not do it this year, but if it's a raging disaster, then I understand. As far as the porta potties right next to it and everything, am I in the right place?
Yeah.
It's got a look going on, so I just want to make sure.
It's not in the budget.
No, it's not in the budget now, you're right.
I
What's-
took it out of the budget.
That's all right, the digital makes it look suspicious.
2 times now.
It was proposed, but it was not moved along.
But
There was a
we,
lot of discussion about it,
Right.
and
and you were
That's
absent.
what happens when you glow.
Yeah. But we can explain where the damage is and did you pull the carpet up yet or anything like that?
So we haven't yet,
Okay.
because of the temperatures.
Okay.
So.
what, is it cold out?
I'm not saying.
A little bit. So I wanted to start by saying that the guys in the solid waste division were really appreciative of the conversation you guys had during our budget meeting. That and they really feel heard and feel like you have their best interest in mind. So that was really great for me and for the guys up there. Talking with Chris and Paul, we're really confident that doesn't have to be done this year. The biggest part of the damage is the floor, and it's on the scale side. So what's happening is the scale sits up higher on that side of the trailer than the road on the other side, and it's also closer. So as vehicles come across the scale, they're splashing water onto the side of it.
The trailer.
And the floor there is really spongy. And what we're going to do early this spring, we're going to tear up the carpet, particularly on that side, see what the understructure of the floor is. Is it just the plywood that's saggy, or is it whatever cross members are there? We need to do more investigation to see what's there. The roof is quite rusty. We're going to get the roof repainted, just to give that some more longevity. So we're going to do little things like that for this year. And that way we can come back to you next budget cycle and make a more informed presentation on it. But for this budget, we're comfortable moving ahead without it in the budget.
Okay.
I knew that. Thank you. Was I not?
No, you weren't there for that one.
Yeah, you weren't there.
And I paid attention to him, so I guess.
You were texting though.
2 strikes. I'm not going for the third one anymore.
Thank you very much, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.
Any other comments or questions on solid waste?
He was so.
That brings us to, we already did Parks and Rec. Brings us to library. Okay, I'll turn mine back on. That brings us to library. We did Parks and Rec already. Are there any comments or suggestions on library? I did want to ask one question,
Yvette's here.
Yvette. They talked about raises built into this budget. Do you know if there's an overall general percentage that was offered? Or were they just individual or specific raises
I believe it was 6.
of a fixed percentage?
6%.
Pardon?
6.
6%.
6% increases?
I believe so,
Across the
because when
board or
when we
just-
were looking at the cost of living back in October, November, I think the rate that they were looking at was 5.6% or 6%. So I would have to go back to Janet and ask her, because she's not here today.
I think she did say 6%.
Did she?
It's, as you said it, it's ringing.
Were you at the meeting?
I heard it.
You heard it?
I don't recall hearing it, so that's why I thought I would ask.
I wasn't
Okay.
trying to
trying to
understand.
Yvette, though, that's over 2 years, right? Did they get a raise last year?
No.
Or did they? They did not?
No, there were some adjustments because they did a salary survey study in 2016. They hired an outside company to do that and created an updated salary schedule. And I know they're trying to implement it, you know, where here's your minimum, here's your mid, which would be 10 years of employment, and your max would be 20 years. So it doesn't make sense to do a study and create a new chart and not implement it. So I know she's been trying to be mindful of that.
Okay. That number's a lot higher than we've been doing for town employees on an annual basis. If the library didn't get one last year or something like that, or if it was
No.
just specific,
Yeah.
then that might make more sense. I'm trying to figure out where we anticipate people going in the upcoming years, what we might do with non-union and stuff like that. So I'm trying to understand all those pieces as they fit together. So that was the gist behind that question.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other thoughts on library? I mean, this is one of those budgets where we can't change lines, but we can recommend lines and change the bottom number if it is important to us, one way or the other. Seeing none, I guess we're good. Thank you
Okay.
very much, Yvette. Appreciate it. Equipment maintenance. Is this one where we were adding, no, we were adding somebody in highway, equipment
Correct.
operator, yeah. Okay. Maintenance, I think, was fairly level, yeah. Any comments on maintenance? We appreciate the work they do, keeping our vehicles on the road as much as they can. Moving on. Building and grounds, 17. Basically, this is around town hall and police department, or
Yes, no, 17 is just town hall.
just town hall?
Town hall, the two buildings here and the ambulance garage. Oh, is it in this one too, or PD doesn't? The PD has its own electricity. Electricity, yeah, sorry. Maintenance does, sorry. The maintenance does handle the PD and the John O'Leary Center for maintaining it, but electricity, I was looking at the electricity line, I'm sorry. Electricity is just for town hall. It's been a long day. Yeah, we are. We are.
So there was, there was a request for parking lot reconstruction work, but that's
not
not
doing
going
that,
into this
no.
budget. So
No.
we're basically reasonably flat from last year's budget. It's up 12K, but it's down a bunch from the year before actual, so. And that's, again, capital outlay differences.
Correct.
So if there's no other questions on building and grounds, we'll go to community development. Number 21. Any other thoughts on community development? Paul didn't have anything. Yeah, they were hard to argue with, as far as I could tell. Their biggest thing was some hanging plan cabinets, which they need to store them somewhere. Well, they're not cheap. They're big steel
Yeah,
file folders.
I get to meet down there, so.
Oh, do you? Okay. All right, if there's no other questions on community development, we'll move on to town clerk, tax collector. This is the one where she had asked for an additional account clerk, part-time to full-time. Paul didn't put that in the budget, so it's not there right now. She made a plea while she was here. She's here. In case you have questions, sorry. I just looked up and noticed you were there. Thank you, Diane.
She's hiding.
Hmm?
She's hiding in the back row.
Well, she's in the back, but that's okay. Anybody have any thoughts on any adjustments or changes they want to make at this point? The point she's made about the clerk part-time being hard to fill and having trained people and lost them and stuff like that, I'm leaning towards thinking that we really need to support that request just to keep service available and stuff like that. But I don't know what the rest of the council's feeling on that is. I'm not seeing a positive reaction there.
Well, and so I asked a series of questions, and I didn't include this one on there, but we include this, what's the tax rate impact?
Well, it's $40,000 additional
It's
in
about a
their
penny.
budget, which is
About a
about a
penny?
penny.
About a penny. Give or take. Once again, it depends where we sit with the, rule of thumb, $5 billion. Every 50,000 is 1 cent on the tax rate. Rule of thumb. It all depends where you're sitting though. You know,
Plus or minus some
plus or
amount,
minus
yeah.
some amount in that $50,000 range, so. It's rule of thumb, but it's roughly around a cent, a penny.
I'm really on the fence about it. I continue to go back to, it seems to me like online transactions should be more efficient, and I understand that they're not.
I agree with you.
I still have a hard
It sure
time
seems like
accepting
it should
that.
be.
I believe it, but it's just not the way it should be. But I don't know that that's within our tax clerk office ability to fix that. I think it's much a bigger issue than that, that's probably at the state level. So we either support them and pay for this inefficiency, and hopefully someone takes it up with the state, or we ignore it.
Lon, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I probably, maybe for a different reason, but I've expressed my concerns about this particular budget request, specifically the clerk, to the town manager. And the discussion the other night was very to the point, brought out a lot of things. But I haven't been able to excuse myself from knowing that that counter is one of the primary faces of the town. And I agree with Andy's thoughts about the inefficiency and the inability to change that. There may be some more flexibility offered to the town clerk's office if we bite the bullet and increase the personnel by one. Management is management. And Diane Trippett, our current town clerk, has sort of demonstrated over the years she kind of knows a little bit about management. So I go along with you in terms of I'd be willing to support putting that position back in.
Okay. Any other, Barbara?
Actually, I support it, and usually I'm looking for the cuts, but, we live in a different world for the last 2 years, and over the last election cycle, we saw it happen. We saw a significant increase in mail-in ballots, and that is, from a municipal standpoint, a lot of work, and I don't think people actually realize how much that is. Because you've got to process the request to send them out, so you make sure that you're not getting ballots back that you didn't send out in the first place. And then Nancy and I have helped out with some of the pre-processing of the returned ballots, and it's just heavy on the paperwork, and there's no way around it. And I don't see, unless the law changes and we go back to the way it was for mail-in ballots prior to COVID, which it hasn't yet, right? There are going to be people who want to just submit the paper ballot. It's easier for them. You don't have to worry about what to do with the kids. And then if you do have concerns regarding, communicability of infectious diseases, then you're safe that way as well. So I don't see it going away unless the state law changes. And I could be wrong, but knowing how much work that is and having seen it firsthand, That alone, I thought was miraculous that they were able to get that all out. So,
Anybody else? Does anybody want to make a motion to put the $40,372 back in to move that part-time to full-time?
So moved.
Moved by Lon Woods, seconded by Barbara. You want to talk to it any further, or? You guys both did. Does anybody else have any comments or thoughts on this change? I think it's appropriate, as Barbara pointed out, and I wasn't thinking about it a minute ago, but the added workload, if you will, due to elections and things of that nature that have fallen on the town clerk, assistant town clerk, or deputy town clerk, whatever her name is, her title is, and the whole staff to manage all of that is a fair amount. And that, coupled with the day-to-day issues that come up with, unfortunately, the inefficiencies of balancing their books between online payments and cash payments and so forth, I think that it's time for us to bite the bullet and bring up that person. So I'm going to be in support of it. If there's no other questions, we can call for a vote on adding $40,372 to the town clerk tax collector's budget for additional account clerk part-time to full-time. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0. You're welcome. If there's no other changes to the town clerk tax collector's budget, we'll move on to welfare. Anybody have any thoughts or adjustments they want to consider or question on welfare? Seeing none, we'll move on. Debt service? Yep, debt service. I don't think there's a whole lot we can talk about here.
I'd like to make a motion to.
To not have debt? Zero it out.
Sure, you can do that, but we still have to pay. Either that or go into default.
That would be entertaining. That fails for lack of a second. We'll move on from debt service to, what was next? Wastewater. I flipped the pages before I looked at the tab. Wastewater.
Know that the 2 non-union employees in this department, there would be one, I'll be bringing those forward on the 10th as well we have 2 non-union employees for a raise. Everybody else is unionized here, and those are the 2
They're under
contracts that I'm
contract, right.
talking about in discussions with.
Oh, okay.
Both of those unions
Part-
were
are
in
this
discussion,
one as well.
bargaining
Okay.
with.
So there aren't any raises in here
In this
at all?
budget at all.
But, okay. You know, this one is also a
Self-supporting enterprise
self-supporting
fund.
enterprise fund. That's the word I was looking for. And so these numbers don't come out of the tax rate, they come out of the sewer user fees. So, and there's a lot of money going into the sewer to upgrade and rebuild and maintain and manage and take our 40 or 50-year-old building into the future. If there's no other adjustments, we'll move on to media. We had a big discussion about media, but
Once
haven't-
again, these employees are non-union, and on February 10th, when I bring forward the non-union proposal, they would be included.
the budget is up as offered because they're moving one of their part-time people to a full-time for an additional $39,000 in expenses, including insurance and health insurance, dental insurance, et cetera, which is basically why the budget is up from last year. That's the dilemma that we face. We've got a media department that's offering a lot of services. I think people are getting used to being able to access information through what they're doing through Merrimack TV and all their different streaming services. To try and cut that back at this point would be very difficult. And so, just to be able to continue to provide that service as we go on through the pandemic even further, it's looking like we need to go to 3 full-time people in that department. They picked up broadcasting of school functions much more than they have in the past. They've got mobile equipment now that they can easily bring around, well, I say easily, but I'm assuming easily bring around to places. I'm sure it's still a chore. Town events are much more covered. We have better quality. There's a lot of good things to be said about the media department.
And they will be, they're outstretched tonight, but again, tomorrow night, will be working with another TV center to broadcast that
Oh, that
NHD,
cancer
the cancer.
discussion from
And that'll be on
DHHS.
Channel 22, because we'll be on Channel 20 live, and that will be live on 22. So years ago, there couldn't have been 2 live events going on at once. It was, you choose which one we want to go live, and that's the one we're going live. So they are working, and they work quite well to get a lot more out and a lot more information out for us. And the other thing is, they're now, I'm going to give them an endless plug for the Facebook page here, but they launched the Facebook page, and if you want, Nicholas can give you the numbers, but we do have a lot of followers and a lot of likes so far. And
He's
a lot of-
coming out.
He's running out. He's running out. I know he wants to get this endless plug.
Come out and brag, Nicholas.
Yeah.
I don't want to take up too much time because I'm covering the meeting. So, just less than a week, we have 500 likes and close to we're approaching 1,000 followers on the official Town of Merrimack, New Hampshire Facebook page. And we haven't even posted a photo of Paul McCallie yet, so it's pretty good.
That would
Only
be a
have
lot
to
of
share
loose
otherwise.
Some or
likes.
gain some.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Like and follow. So please subscribe. Thanks.
But, you know, they are doing a lot more than they have in just the last year, let alone the last 5 years.
Do we have a link for people to get to that on the website or something at this point? Or
Our Facebook page?
to get to the Facebook page?
No, we have not done that, but we can
I mean, I
figure out
was
how to
able to
do
find
it.
it by a link that you sent me an email, but I
Right.
couldn't find it when I just tried to type in Town of
Town of Mer-
Merrimack.
Yeah,
so
well, now that,
Now it'll come up because I've liked it,
but there are some, and I'm not a Facebook guru, but there are,
Okay.
now that people are starting to like it more, they'll be able to
It'll
start
be
showing
easier
in
to find.
search when
Yeah.
you type in Town
Okay.
of Merrimack.
Can we put it on the webpage, a link?
I will try
look into that.
tomorrow. We can. Sharon's telling me we can, so we can. So we'll get that done for tomorrow or Friday.
TikTok.
No, I
Okay.
don't have a
No
TikTok
TikTok.
account.
No. Okay, so seeing no other comments on media, we'll go to fire protection.
Fire protection.
I don't think there's, I mean, this is a revenue neutral or?
Revenue neutral, the people in the fire protection area pay for it, pay for the services.
Okay, we just have to budget it because we spend it.
We have to pay the bill. We collect the money and pay it off to them.
Okay. That brings us to fire outside details. Is this going up or down, or
It's neutral.
it's neutral?
And they usually do, 3 to 4 events. One is the triathlon.
The other Rib Fest.
The other is Rib Fest, and there's usually one or two others.
But
that
again,
are
this one is revenue neutral, right?
Revenue
This is-
neutral,
We need to budget it because we're spending the money, but
correct.
we expect the income to, the fees that we
Cover
charge the events to cover the cost.
Police outside detail is in there as well, and that's also another revenue neutral. It's in,
Did I
with-
skip that one, or?
no, it's behind the fire details. Oh, we have our own tab for
Police
that.
outside detail, okay.
Yeah, we do have that own tab this year.
Yeah, they do. I just,
I can't find it.
somehow I missed it.
It's in the same folder for you, Finley. They're together, electronically.
You like being different, don't you?
Come join. It's normally not as bad as it was tonight.
So,
They're going up a little bit, but that's because of wages. That their union is in contract, so it's because of wages. So that's going up, and that's 100% paid by outside contractors.
Right, so it's gonna be an impact of how many events or things go on in town, whether
Correct.
it's the telephone company working on their lines or businesses trying to put connections into the highway or something, and they need a police detail around there for traffic control and stuff.
Rib Fest or any events down at
Any of those kind of
Anheuser-Busch, stuff like that,
And that's all paid for by the event
by the event coordinators and the event, and the contractors.
and contractors. And that's, so we just pass those fees on. And if we don't budget this, I mean, we could put it in for $100,000 or something instead of 500, but it would still go against our gross budget at the end of the year.
Correct.
So we wouldn't be, you know,
We could stop all outside details and not do any, but
but then
then
we'd have trouble with
trouble with
traffic and stuff like
traffic
that, which,
and, you know, just remember
it's-
when they were trying to lay some fiber lines and they didn't have a detail on Babuzik Lake Road or on VW, traffic was trying to go around them, like, hey, stop the work, you need a police officer out here so that they can
To-
at least
to
direct
direct the traffic,
traffic.
okay. And being revenue neutral, it's not costing anybody, so
Nope.
it's just important that we budget appropriately to try and cover those expenses.
Correct.
I've said that at least 3 times now, so I can quit. As my wife keeps telling me. We'll skip over revenue for now,
Right?
and then go to the revolving fund, which is Parks and Rec's revolving fund for doing their projects and events.
Right.
And we probably should have covered this while Matt was here, but I don't imagine
Neutral,
anybody's
too.
got any, it's neutral, and so,
And it's not included in the warrant, in the appropriations.
oh, it's not, because
Because
revolving
it's,
fund.
because it's a revolving fund. The difference between an enterprise fund or a self-supporting fund versus a revolving fund is that you have to appropriate the money for a self-supporting or fund, and then it comes in at revenue and it goes out of appropriations. We try to make them revenue neutral, but because they don't have their own checking account, so to speak, it doesn't matter if the revenue isn't coming in, you can still pay the people in advance. In a revolving fund, if you don't have money in your checkbook, you can't pay them. So you need the money in the revolving fund, the cash, to be able to pay. So for instance, if Matt only had $5 in the revolving fund for day camp, and he had to, for instance, buy first aid supplies, he couldn't buy the first aid supplies until he gets revenue in to cover those costs. And that's the difference between a self-supporting and a revolving. And at the end, if they're in the hole, it stops. No more payments go out,
They don't go in the hole.
but they don't go in the hole. We make sure that he doesn't go in the hole. But that's the difference between a revolving and a self-supporting and an enterprise fund.
Okay. So, do we want to talk about revenue tonight, or is that a really
Well,
another
right
night?
now, we're just trying to get the appropriations to the public hearing. So I have, and I would like a motion, if possible.
Well, you can't make a motion. but
I
you can
can't make it,
recommend
but
one.
I would like a motion, if possible, by one of the counselors, is to move $36,195,627 to the public hearing for the town,
Town budget.
town budget.
So moved.
Moved by Nancy Harrington and seconded
You've got the numbers there, Paul. So you
Yes, I
go.
have them here.
by Barbara Healy to move $36,195,627 to the public hearing for the town budget for the year 22-23.
I'm impressed you had that number down. You did too.
He's my backup. Are there any other questions or suggestions? Did we go through that at a speed that everybody felt comfortable with? This number, 36 million and change. If we're good, I will call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0-0.
You're not done.
And that's all? Wait,
You're not done.
hmm?
You're not done.
I'm not done?
You're not
Okay, wait a
done.
minute. What am I not done with?
Capital reserve funds.
I knew there was something I meant to talk about. So, thank you. Why do we vote on that other number if we still have capital reserve funding to put in?
Because that's a separate, it would be a separate article for capital reserve funds.
Oh, they don't want to stay here.
They're running.
We can always reconsider. Oh,
Can we reconsider the tax?
some people are aware of that and they're staying. Okay, capital reserve funds, because this is a separate warrant article.
Right, these are separate warrant articles, so this would be
not in
moved
the
separately.
budget.
It's not in the budget, it's not in that $36 million figure. For general fund, it's $2,002,500. It's an increase of $122,500 from last year. And really, like, the major increases were for ambulance, 15,000, highway equipment, 25,000, road infrastructure, 105,000. And then a decrease in capital reserve fund for solid waste of 25,000. And then $2,500 came from revaluation from the assessing. And that makes up the capital reserve fund deposits that would show on that warrant.
Anybody have any comments or thoughts on the capital reserve fund deposits? I'm having some heartburn myself. Barbara, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm having it too.
Oh.
So what would happen if we kept it flat with last year? It's 100,000, so that's 2 cents.
It is flatlined, the tax rate is flatlined from last year, even though it went up 122,000, because the town valuation we're projecting increase would flatline that to the money. So we would show a little bit of a decrease in from that. What would happen is that the big one is the road infrastructure, and that road infrastructure of $105,000 increase is actually coming out of fund balance, as part of fund balance. So even though you would decrease that up by $105,000, you'd also have to decrease the corresponding revenue of $105,000, because that's how I funded it based on years past of how we funded through trying to reduce the general fund balance down to 6%. That is one of those items that I have used. It actually increased from $95,000 to $200,000 coming out of fund balance to fund that. One of the problems is that everything's getting more expensive. Bridges are getting more expensive to do, rotaries, roundabouts, things of that sort. Road repairs, drainage, everything's getting more expensive. So by flatlining that of that $105,000, it would affect maybe a couple projects going down the road a little bit. The other thing is that, like I said, ambulances, $15,000 for ambulance. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but that $15,000 would for an ambulance would help us outfit and buy an ambulance. Ambulances are getting more expensive. The other one is highway equipment. We saw when we came in front of you, dump trucks are going up significantly. I think $175,000 to $190,000 for a dump truck, right, Kyle? And then we have some versus what we were paying $150,000 just two years ago. So there are some built-in. Some of these capital reserves increases are built in because of that. We'd have to delay some of those purchases if we didn't have the money.
Did I understand you said for a tax rate impact, it's flat
Yes,
due to the increase in town valuation?
correct.
Okay.
That is what I said.
But the overall budget is up.
122,000,
Significantly.
right. But it's flat, it's a tax rate flat.
But for that piece. But if we reduce this by 55,000 or something like that.
Right.
It,
It would decrease that by it would be 1 cent.
Yeah.
Reduction, yes, you're right. You're right.
The 100,000 would be too small.
Right. And what did you say about the infrastructure capital reserve fund? If we reduce that one, there's some, you've got money coming out of our general fund, but there's
fund
only so long
balance.
we're gonna be able to take it out of the fund balance, and then we're gonna run into the same problem we run into with media.
Yeah, but I do have a projection here, but that is included in that fund, to reduce the fund balance. So if that is the case, then you would also have a corresponding revenue entry, if so chose. Right now, I'm projecting $929,000 for property tax relief out of fund balance in general fund.
Say that again?
$929,500 of the fund balance goes for property tax relief. The fund balance that I'm using in revenue is $1,350,000. Of that $1,350,000, $929,500 is directly related to property tax relief. The other $420,500 is made up of a couple items. I could throw this up on the screen if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Thank you.
Because I'm totally, maybe it's late enough in the evening or something, but I'm totally confused, so. Thank you.
And if we take money out of the fund balance, there's only certain things we can use it for, is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
So we can't take, if we are diminishing, putting that money from the fund balance in the road infrastructure, we can't use it for anything else.
Right.
Or
Well,
it's limited.
You can use it for property tax relief. One-time capital purchases. And we used it in the years past for, the 53rd week of payroll. 53rd week of payroll.
So there is equipment that are in the budget that we could use it on?
Yeah, and I will show you that if this
And
ever
not-
comes up.
Okay. Which would decrease, make sure I understand, which would decrease the amount for that
Input C.
department, wherever that equipment was, right? And then
Correct.
Paul gets, no, when you wasn't paying attention, I was gonna be a wise guy. So unlike me.
Ta-da. So this.
Okay, let me
Go-
finish
yeah,
my
yeah.
thought, though.
So let me pay attention now, sorry.
You were doing something. So if we do not use money from the capital reserve fund on the road infrastructure, we could use it on what you said, like equipment,
We could,
one-time purchase, right?
one-time purchase, yeah.
So if in fact we did that, and I'm not suggesting we do it, but if it were done, that would decrease the amount from that department, which would need to be raised.
Correct.
So that would bring the tax rate down for that proportion of the department.
Right, and that would, that would go
So
over.
we'd still be using the capital reserve funds and maintaining that percentage we're talking about.
Right.
But it would decrease the capital reserve fund for the roads,
Mhm.
but it would decrease the budget for a department having to do with equipment.
Well, the budget would still be there, and the appropriation side, it would just be as a revenue.
Okay, but that would affect the tax rate.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So what we've done in years past is that we've used, as you can see in 2020-21, we used $948,000, $300,000 right off the bat to reduce taxes, an extra $648,000 to reduce taxes, for a total of $948,000 off the bat to just reduce property taxes. Then we had $200,000 for the sidewalk, which would down on Woodbury, paving $190,000, road infrastructure $95,000, the old salt shed roof $30,000, lighting upgrade at Town Hall $50,000, tennis courts was $37,000 for $602,000, for a total use of $1,509,000 $850,000 is what we used. Our decrease to fund balance was $821,112. Our balance at the end of the year 2021 was $8.7 million. We fast forward that to this fiscal year, 21-22. Right now, when we set the revenues, we used $300,000 for reduced property tax, $642,800 additional use of property tax for a total of $942,800, $240 for paving, $95,000 for capital road infrastructure, $26,000 for docks. The roof and the ramp at Wasserman was $14,800. A flail mower was $31,000, for a total of $407,200. We used $300,000 to help offset the 53rd week of payroll, for a total fund balance reduction of $1,650,000. We're estimating an increase because of all the pluses and minuses, an increase of $200,000 to the fund, for an ending balance of $7.2 million projected. We take that $7.2 million, we fast forward it to 22-23. We're using the same $300,000 to reduce property taxes. We're trying to wean down on that extra unreserved fund balance to reduce taxes. So I'm weaning that down to $129,500 for $929,500 for a reduction in taxes. We're using $160,000 of paving. The paving decreased $80,000. That line decreased $80,000, so we used $160,000 of that. Capital Reserve Fund infrastructure, we were putting 95 in. We're putting the extra 105 in for a total of $200,000 into that infrastructure capital reserve. The base radio unit and DPW, $28,000, and the Wasserman Park roof repairs at $32,500 for a total of $425,000, using $1,350,000. And at the end of the year, we'll be at 6.44% of fund balance, which is right where you want to be, around 4. And then you'll see 5.94 and 5.62 going in the out years.
Being able to cover all the goodies is closely coming to
Good end.
a halt,
Right.
which is good that we get these things done, but,
Right. And then going out to 23, 24, it all depends what do we put in 21, 22 at the end of the year? Is it 200? Is it 100? Is it 600? It all depends on what
Mhm.
drops into fund balance at that point. And that's why those out years are blacked out, because right now I don't have a crystal
Yeah.
ball of what we're putting in at the end of the year for revenue and for appropriations. We're 7 months into the fiscal year, and a lot could happen with the snowstorm or piece of equipment that we need right away.
mhm.
So, but that's where I am trying to help offset some of the increase in that capital reserve fund. Because we were funding it at $450,000, and now I don't have my number in front of me, but it's to help offset that number. I believe it's 650. Is it 650? For infrastructure? Road infrastructure, what are we putting into road infrastructure?
So am I thinking the right way?
So that's 650 is going in
650,
total.
so it was 450, and we're covering from 450 to 650 through the use of fund balance.
So last year we put in 545.
545, but in 1920, it was
Yeah, it was
450,000. So the 95 was that 545 increase, and then the extra 105 is coming out of fund balance. So that extra money. And it's good to have money in that infrastructure, road infrastructure, for a couple of reasons. One reason is that if the state, especially with this bridge aid and other projects, they'll ask for shovel-ready projects,
Sure, you have
and
to
we
have
have a
to-
shovel-ready bridge already right here at Route, I'm pointing, I'm sorry, nobody can see me pointing. I'm pointing to the Piningburg Route 3 bridge. It's shovel-ready, and by having this extra money in this capital reserve fund,
20%.
it helps us cover our 20% cost so that we can get moved up in getting some of these bridge projects. And in my career here, I think 2 or 3 of the bridges have moved up because they said, do you have the money? And I'm like, we sure do.
That's true,
We're ready to do it. Let's bring it to the council.
that's true.
Wire Road was one of them, Bedford Road was another, and Turkey Hill, which was a different project altogether and was picked up 100% by the federal government. But that was also shovel-ready, to move forward. But we did have our 20% match.
Right.
And that's why we were able to reduce this capital reserve fund a little bit, because it was 100% picked up by the federal government at the time,
You're right.
so.
That's your best argument. It's because we've had good experience
We
with
have
that.
good
And we've
experiences.
saved a lot of money as a result.
And now with this infrastructure bill,
Yeah.
shovel-ready projects are gonna get moved a lot quicker than communities that can't raise the funds quick enough to do a project.
That was discussed on the webinar. I'm not sure anybody else. There was a webinar today by Senator Shaheen, and it had to do with the infrastructure bill. And they were talking about that, and there was a question related to would shovel-ready take priority? And they didn't want to commit to that. But they, which would
Yeah.
pretty smart, actually.
Right,
But at the same time, they said, remember, this is a 5-year plan.
correct.
So those who would not be shovel-ready would have time to do that.
And they would be, but remember the other thing is that this money is, even though it's coming from the federal government, it's gonna be administered by the state
Through
of
the
New
state,
Hampshire.
they mentioned
And
that.
state of New Hampshire looks to move money, because they have pockets of money too that they are appropriating.
Correct.
They'll look to move that money into some of the communities which have already.
Yeah, they talked about, I'm not sure what section, but they were talking about DOT as well.
Right.
That
And
there was some
DO
combinations.
Right. And there's a big DOT project that is supposed to be happening in the next 2 to 3 years.
Is that the 10-year plan?
10-year plan, but it's the FE Everturn rate too.
Right.
Well, that's turnpike money, not DOT money, but, you know, that's another part of the infrastructure bill. So,
So,
I
so
just
the
put this on.
balance in the capital reserve, you're estimating for June 30th of '22 to be 824,000.
right.
Is that, that's before the 650 gets added, right?
I would have to look at my book, I'm sorry.
Well, this 22-23 budget can't add anything until July 1, right?
Yes, 824,000, yep,
Is what you anticipate at the end of this year, but
right,
prior to the addition of the 650.
50, right.
Yeah, I guess I want to understand more why we need a $105,000 increase at this point.
I believe Kyle can talk to you about why, especially with the Route 3 bridge, and what potentially our 20% share of that bridge would be.
But that's out several years, at least at the moment, right?
At the moment, yes.
Yep.
And then we have other projects for drainage, you know, that are included in that figure. You know, right now we have, I believe, 300, oh, I can see because, did I include it? I did include it. Hold on.
Kyle, do you have anything to add on that? Since you've been
Is
volunteered.
that the CIP?
Sure. Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Uh,
Anytime, Kyle.
I think I.
So I guess what I would say is,
Yeah.
you know, where the CRF plan or funding plan comes from is the CIP. And in the fiscal year, we're talking about 22, 23. The proposed expenditures are $275,000 for stormwater and drainage, $375,000 for the first part of Woodland Drive drainage project,
Severance Bridge Canoe launch.
$200,000 for paving, repaving a section of Daniel Webster Highway. That's its own capital reserve fund. The Severance Bridge canoe launch, the Souhegan River Trail,
Depot Street Boat.
Depot Street Boat Ramp.
Those are all
And
coming
that's-
out of the road infrastructure, CRF?
Yes.
The
Yeah,
200 paving?
Except for Daniel Webster Highway.
Okay.
That's its own fund.
That didn't-
Everything else comes out of the road
If you turn to
infrastructure.
page 6 in your books, it
Page
actually shows.
6 in my
yeah,
book.
It actually shows you what's gonna become, what we're projecting to come out of the Road Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund in 22, 23.
And for the new counselors and the folks at home,
It's under the title TM Overview.
Public Works used to have a variety of different capital reserve funds. The Bridge Capital Reserve
That's right,
Fund,
too.
Sidewalk
That's
Capital
right,
Reserve
too.
Fund. They all all of the infrastructure items got rolled into this one capital reserve fund. So although it's one big number, it's made up of a bunch of little parts.
So that added up to $1,023,000 guesstimated expenditures for next year.
Yes.
And then the additional is looking forward in the next few years of the CIP
Correct.
and trying to maintain that $650,000 deposit each year.
Trying to for a couple of years.
Okay. It's just, Barbara?
I think I asked you this before, but I can't remember. So
Thanks.
isn't the rivers, I don't know what department it is, but aren't they responsible for the boat ramps on the rivers and any work that needs to be done to, for erosion and whatnot?
If they have the money.
Yeah, but if they come and assess things and it looks pretty good, they're not gonna give us any money either.
No, but,
So what I'm
actually-
saying is that
Yep.
within the state government, there is a department that's supposed to be doing this work, but we're taking it out of our tax money to do the work.
Yep, okay, for two things. The Depot Street Boat Ramp, that's actually underneath, I wish Matt was here because he could explain it better. But for those counselors that were around, remember when we had the tennis courts?
The what?
Over the tennis courts on O'Gara
Oh,
Drive?
Yeah.
We had to get those inspected through L-chip. One of the L-chips, and I don't know all the details, but they went down and inspected the Depot Street Boat Ramp as well. That's on the town to fix, because we're supposed to maintain that in perpetuity. The Severance Bridge canoe launch ramp, that is something that the town wants. So if the town wants that, they have to pay for doing it. That is why you will not see on this and Kyle might be able to answer it, but we have by the Flying Eagles there,
Kyle might be able to help you.
the Scalar property.
Yeah.
That boat ramp, we do have money from Fish and Game set up, but I believe it's, so far out?
So, yeah,
Yeah.
Paul had everything exactly right. I'll just expand on it a little bit. So the Depot Street Boat Ramp, Paul's correct. That's a repair. Anyone who's been down there, and that's off of Depot Street, you have to go through that little tunnel. It's really only for canoes, because you have to carry whatever you're gonna launch from there. And the river, current has destroyed the end of the boat ramp. So that's a repair we're doing. That's not eligible for the fund you're talking about, Barbara. The fund you're talking about is for creating new boat ramps. And what it is, it's a 50-50 match up to 200,000. And for years, the Fish and Game folks have said, well, you have to improve the access to there before we'll even consider doing anything. And that's a huge chunk of money to do that part. And frankly, I'm not sure 400,000 is enough to build that boat ramp. In this year's CIP, we recommended, Public Works recommended, not town manager, that we abandon that project in favor of folks using the new boat ramp in Nashua. Just, for me, it doesn't make fiscal sense to do that improvement. to only get $200,000 from Fish and Game. Excuse me. Regarding the Severance Bridge canoe launch, that's a place that's been a canoe launch forever. If you talk to George May, who's a huge canoe advocate, I think he tells the story, I may get this wrong, but I'll do my best. Back when Nashua was named the #1 city in the nation, back in 1989-ish,
Yeah.
whatever it was, the picture that was on the front of Money magazine or whatever it was a picture of that canoe launch. So just kind of a cool anecdote. But regardless of whether we use it as a canoe launch or not, the repair needs to happen because the riverbank is eroding towards Severance Bridge Road, and we need to fix it to protect the road.
The road.
Right, right. So that is why we're doing these projects at this time. And it is, like you said, Councilor Koenig, over $1 million for next year coming
And
out of.
expenditures, yeah.
And we're looking at it, putting in, the balance would have been about $1.4 million, so we're getting about $400,000, and we know we have the Pinenberg Bridge and things of that sort that are shovel-ready, that if it goes forward, we're hoping to get 100% money from the federal government, but if we don't, we have to come up with our 20% match. And that's what this Road Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund is for. And some of the other ones that are increasing are just because, they're increasing because price of doing business is going up, you know. Like I said, a six-wheel dump truck's $180,000. When I started here 15 years ago, it was $90,000. So in 15 years, it's doubled.
Uh-oh, he has more to say.
Do you mind if I chime in on that?
Go ahead.
Just last week, Lori was telling me she's been talking to heavy equipment vendors, and just like cars, heavy equipment is in short supply, high demand, and contractors pay more than municipalities because they don't get the municipal discounts. And Lori's been told by a couple vendors that they're going to favor contractors, which will make our equipment more expensive and less available. So I guess that's my plea, not to lower the fund, but
Right.
thank you.
So, you know, and those are really where I looked at it. I didn't, willy-nilly it, I didn't increase revaluations. I halved it, and I've taken money out of other ones that I know we're funded for a good couple of years right now.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I'm having a little bit of trouble with the 105K increase and would like to try and drop it back by 55 just to cover some other things. But and what we'd have to do, I guess, is consider moving more money into the property tax relief or something like that
Yeah,
if we don't put it into that capital reserve fund
correct.
in order to offset other expenses this year that have been bothering us. New employees and things like that. I mean, we're going to have them. We're going to have 8 new fire people in a couple of years that we're going to have to cover the salaries for.
And I'm working on getting the money
And
for
we're working
that.
on ways to do that, but, you know, we have, these other part-time people in tax collector's office and stuff like that, full-time now, is what we're suggesting. So I'd like to recommend that we reduce that by 55,000 and work it out to try and reduce the impact on the tax rate however we can. I don't know if anybody else in the council is interested in that. or-
I want to make sure I understand. So the 200,000 line, you'd like to reduce that by 55,000 and move that 55,000 up above to offset taxes?
Yeah. So we'd still be taking that 1.3 or whatever million out of the fund balance. We just would
Distribute
be,
it differently.
we just, instead of putting it into a savings account, we'd be trying to reduce some of the tax impact of this year's budget. A penny's worth, plus or minus.
So on the budget that we just moved forward, the tax rate impact for that was it how many cents?
It was actually neutral. Well, because we've decreased when we increased, so it's $4.02. We started at $4.02.
Because of the positions.
Because of the position added, it's $4.02.
I'm sorry, compared to last year, not
Oh,
compared to
20 cents.
20 cents.
And 16 cents of that is $762,000 for the communication equipment. And you asked how we're gonna get up to, in a year and a half or 2 years, how we're gonna be able to smooth over. That's one of the ways that we can smooth it over, by using that money going forward for other non-repetitive construction projects moving forward, so that when the time comes and we need that money for those firefighters, it's already
Right.
in the tax rate, so that people aren't gonna get hit with a 20-cent tax increase because of the safer grant ends.
Right.
Tom, I would concur with what you're suggesting.
So I need a motion. Would you be willing to make a motion?
Sure. It's 55,000, right?
That's what I was suggesting, yeah, out of the 105.
Yeah, if you had said 150, I would have felt uncomfortable with that. For 55, I'm okay with. So, I'm just not sure how to express it. To decrease the capital reserve fund amount by 55,000 and increase the relief for tax rate by 55,000, is that correct?
What- If you don't mind.
Two different things.
Please, I'm
There-
very open to suggestions.
To reduce the road infrastructure capital reserve fund by $55,000,
Yeah.
Period.
period.
That would be the
Oh,
motion,
that
and
would be
then
the
we'd have to
motion.
do a separate motion to
Okay,
change the other
then that
number.
can be the
Actually, we
initial.
wouldn't, because I just know that I got $1,350,000 for, as revenue, and I'll just move it up, so you don't have to make that.
So
a
you don't
motion.
need to have a second.
Right.
Okay, so it's just the initial decreasing of the
Mhm.
capital reserve funds
Yep.
by 50 capital reserve funds for the road
Infrastructure,
infrastructure by 55,000.
correct.
Motion made by Nancy Harrington, seconded by Barbara Healy. Does anybody want to talk to that? I think I've already expressed my opinion.
The 16 cents percentage wise, what's that compared to last year's tax rate? What percentage jump is that? And I'm sorry, I ran off and left my phone, so I don't have a calculator. I don't want to do long math.
Well,
He'd
it's
be
from-
faster even with a calculator.
To be honest, I already did it. I want to make sure I did it right.
Oh, wait, that didn't work out. How about 0.16?
So what's your question again?
I want to know the percentage of a tax rate
0.49?
jump that we're doing over last year. So in my mind, I can kind of compare it to
Pretty good
inflation.
amount.
It's from 382 to 402?
Well,
Is that, but it's different than that.
no, you're asking for the 16 cents?
16 cents as a
As a
percentage is how
percent,
much.
I got
in-
4.19%.
And that's for, that, but that only covers the cost of the radio upgrade this year. The whole tax increase right now is 20 cents.
20 cents, yeah, you're absolutely, so it should be, yeah, what
It's
percentage? Thank you, Tom.
4.9,
4.9%?
4.97.
5%.
Phew, God, we got a finance guy here.
So,
With a functional category.
so, yeah, all we're trying to talk about right now is changing that by,
Yeah,
we're actually leaving it, right? We're just,
Yeah.
because
it
you're gonna
just-
move the
it
numbers
just
around,
moves
but
ar- it- you
we're
still
just
have the
not
same-
putting it into capital reserve and,
Right.
and using it
Yeah.
for
Because that's a separate,
tax.
I mean, the
reduction.
reason I asked that question is, on one side, one warrant, we're asking the public to increase it by, 4.5% or something. On this, we would actually be decreasing
yeah,
the tax
Okay.
rate. If
By
the
a cent.
a penny.
2 million was a flat tax rate, and now we're coming down another penny. So we're at, I don't know, 3%, 3.5% maybe?
That would be 19 cents. We'd still be in the 4% range.
Okay.
We'd be between 4.1
It's
and 4.9.
still up there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still a big hit.
It's still,
And
it's still a
and
good
the majority
number.
of it is at 16 cents, but
But
we're just trying to offset a little bit of the increase due to the,
I mean, for me, based on that percentage, I would agree, I would support it.
okay. Any other comments or suggestions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote on reducing the road infrastructure capital reserve fund by 55 thousand.
Did we get a second?
Yeah,
Yes.
Barbara seconded it.
I didn't hear you, okay.
The motion was made by Nancy Harrington and seconded by Barbara Healy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? So that passes 7-0-0.
Okay. I'd like a motion, please, to move 1,947, is that the, I'm sorry.
Wait, say again now? To move what?
Well, I jumped the gun. I'm just gonna shut up. Is there any other discussion?
Is there any, that's a good question. Any other discussion on the budget at this point?
Capital reserve
We've covered
funds.
all the pieces, or capital reserve?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's a separate, yes,
Yeah.
never mind. Good point. Any other thoughts on capital reserve funds? Saying none.
Okay. Can
No,
I have a
go forward.
motion, please, to move $1,947,500 for the general fund, capital reserve fund, to be moved to the public hearing? Please?
Moved by Barbara Healy, seconded by Nancy Murphy. Anybody want to question where that number came from, or?
I wouldn't dare.
It's 55,000 minus just over
It's
2
the
million.
2 million minus the 55,000, so.
Yeah.
If there's no other debate on that, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0-0.
Okay. And we're still not done.
Pardon?
We're still not done.
We're not done? Come on.
We got a wastewater capital reserve fund of $500,000.
Where is that one?
It's at the very end of the capital reserve funds.
Oh,
It's $500,000. It's flatlined from last year. And that's the wastewater sewer capital improvements.
Oh, so it has to be separate because it's a.
Because
it's
it's
a separate
fund.
fund, so it
Fund.
needs to be handled separately. Okay, at the very bottom there.
Mhm.
Transfer to sewer infrastructure capital reserve fund.
Yep.
And that money comes out of
User fees.
user fees.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep, that's
Making
100% user fees.
all right.
But we still have to have a warrant on
We have still, because it's putting money into the capital reserve
it. There's
funds.
movement.
Yep.
Okay, so we need a motion to
Move that to
move
the
that to
public
the
hearing.
public
So
hearing
moved.
for $500,000 in a
Mhm.
sewer.
Second.
Who moved it? Andy?
Moved. Second.
Andy Hunter moved and Nancy Harrington seconded the motion to move $500,000 to the public hearing for the sewer capital reserve fund, sewer infrastructure capital reserve fund.
Mhm.
Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed or abstaining? 7-0-0.
And we have a couple more,
Two bonds, right?
the two bonds.
Oy vey.
Wastewater treatment fund, phase 5 bond, $10,102,750. We talked about that a couple meetings ago. That would be offset by that $2 million grant that we could get from the state using SRF. So really what we'd be bonding through the SRF is $8,102,750.
But the warrant has to be for
But the
10.
warrant has to be for 10 because you have to gross appropriate in the state of New Hampshire. So I need a motion to move,
10,102,750.
yes, to the public hearing.
It's on the paper that you're writing on.
So moved.
Page 2.
There we go.
So Barbara made the motion.
And
now.
that's at the, that's a how many year bond, at what percentage? 15?
We were looking at a 20-year bond for around, I want to say, geez, I knew you would ask me that question.
No, that'll come out in the public hearing,
Public hearing,
right?
right, yeah.
We discussed
It's
all
a
of
tw-
this.
Yeah, it's a 20-year bond. I believe
I think we
it's
decided on the 20. Here we
on
go.
the 20 on that one. I don't remember what the interest rate
Wasn't
was.
two?
2.5,
Projected at 2.5.
2.5, yeah,
Thanks, Kyle.
about 2.5.
Is there a motion to move that wastewater treatment fund Phase 5 bond to the warrant article, to the public hearing of $10,102,750? Moved by Nancy Murphy, seconded by Finley. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? And the last
is the
fire
ladder
ladder
truck
truck.
for $1,500,000. Now, I have to bring this to the council's attention. When we talked about a 10-year bond. And the 10-year bond would replace a bond that's coming off in the year 23, 24. We'd be looking at $15,000 moving forward. Since that time, the ARPA money has come out with some final rules and regulations. They are less stringent than they were when we talked about it way back when in April. One of the less stringent matters is we received around $2.7 million here for the town of Merrimack. We could take that full $2.7 million and just yell and say it's revenue shortfall. Don't have to prove it because it's less than $10 million. We don't have to prove it. And we could just put it towards revenue. I would not recommend that. However, one of the other things that did come out of
You just
this,
teased us.
I did tease
Well,
you. I wanted to give you
obviously,
a
if he did that, you'd have to make that up next year. And,
Right,
you
I
know,
just-
so we'd
right,
see one of
right.
those big
It's the way
dips
he
in the tax
present-
rate.
It was the way he
yeah.
presented it.
Right, well, I wanted to give you the teaser because
It worked.
I wouldn't recommend that. But I had to tell you, why? Because of the dip. We had
Which
this
is what
several
Tom's
years
talking
ago
about.
when they returned excess
2 million from the
surplus
library fund. or
library
something,
fund,
yeah.
and our tax rate drove right down, and it bounced right, it didn't bounce up that much, but not as high, but it bounced up. And that was the famous saying, what goes down must come up, and what goes up must come down, at that time. What I'm trying to get at is that when they released some of the stringency, is that we thought it was only for water, sewer, drainage, projects like that. They have now come out and said that you can buy it, you can use it for first responders. Pay for equipment, first responders' equipment.
The truck is an equipment?
The truck is equipment. So it's a discussion that I believe we're gonna have to have as a council, as whether we wanna proceed this with a bond, or whether we wanna proceed it with, take it out altogether and use 1.5 million of that $2.7 million. However, remember, we also set some money aside already for wastewater treatment. So we'd have to take that and pull that away. We'd have to pull the 2.3 million that was sitting, that we gave to wastewater, we'd have to pull that back. They haven't spent any of it yet.
The
They
whole
haven't
thing-
obligated any of
The
it
whole
yet.
thing or just the 1.5?
Well, we have 2.7, so we have 400,000, so we'd have to make up $900,000 for the 1.5. So there are a lot of options, but I wanted to bring this forward. I would recommend, let's move it to the public hearing. And at the public, after the public, we can have a discussion on this with the ramifications of what projects are gonna get delayed in wastewater because of that.
So when we voted to set that money aside for the wastewater treatment facility,
Mhm.
that scope of work, that is in that Phase 5 bond, same scope of work
Some of it is, yes, but there's other parts that is not.
that we specifically set that money aside
No,
for?
we set that money aside for the Phase 5, yes. The
Yes.
Phase 5, yes. However, there are some projects that are not gonna get done.
In
And
the
we'd
Phase
like to
5
take
piece.
them, we would like to take them away from the SRF bond process. That's why we have to have the total discussion about it. Like, we have a sawdust shed,
Yeah,
and if we have to go through SRF and the SRF process of about, I don't, say it's $700,000, now it becomes almost $1 million because of certain, we gotta, get this, where we could bid out the sawdust shed on our own for less. There are projects like that
Yeah.
and things of that sort that we could look into and look at with that money. So there are additional projects at wastewater that would complement what we're doing now. and having the contractor there at this time would make the price a little bit more palatable than not. But you are correct. We put $2.3 million aside for a screenings building. In that $10 million bond that you just moved to the public hearing, the screenings building is in there.
So, and I want to make sure I'm thinking about this correctly. If we have a wastewater treatment project and we go out and we bond the money to do that project, only the users of that wastewater treatment facility are paying that bond.
Correct.
And then we could use the ARPA funds for projects that benefit all the taxpayers in town. But if we use the ARPA funds to fund wastewater treatment facility, we're only benefiting those who use the wastewater treatment facility.
User fees. But at the time, in April, it was so stringent that that was one of the approved uses.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just,
Yeah,
in my mind, if
your
we use
statement
it
is
for other projects, we're really offsetting the tax rate is what we're doing. But if we use it for wastewater treatment facility, all we're offsetting is user fees.
100% correct, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make, that's what I thought in my
Yeah,
mind.
but-
I want to make sure I was right.
Is it good?
But knowing some of this other stuff, that $10 million bond might be a little bit more if we go that route. So, but I had to bring it to the council because the information
It's
did
new.
come up and it's new. And literally, it was hot off the press from last Thursday. Friday is when we found out about it. So.
I like your thinking.
So, but that's an option, but what I would ask is that we move the $1,500,000 to, as a fire truck, ladder truck bond to the budget.
Public hearing.
Public hearing. And then you can decide after that public hearing that
What do we want to do?
maybe we want it to go forward as a bond, or we want to take out and use the ARPA money, and then, once again, we do agenda it for discussion, if that's what the council would like to do at that point.
Okay, so you're looking for a motion to move the $1.5 million fire ladder truck bond question to the
So the
public hearing.
right.
So moved.
Moved by Nancy Harrington, seconded by Barbara Healy. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify
We
by saying aye.
understood you.
Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0. Are we done now?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done. I'm literally.
You're done.
I'm done.
Any other comments or questions from the council at this stage of the game? I appreciate you sticking with us and working through this. It's always a challenge to try and get these numbers figured out. And,
We'll have to find out from our new members what your impressions of your first budget season. And we're not over yet, but.
we're not over yet. It's
And
not
I
approved.
do want to apologize. It is a little choppy than from years past. And I hate to blame COVID, but a lot of it has to do with COVID and federal money and state money and things changing, and we're in the process, and then all of a sudden they change the game on us.
Yep.
You know, and definitions changing and things of that sort. So I do want to apologize for that.
Have-
think it was choppy.
Okay.
Did we talk about default budgets already, or do we
No,
need
we get to do that on the 10th of February,
We'll do that on the 10th.
and I
Okay.
expect a birthday cake.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
If that's gonna bring it.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, you don't want to know. We probably
I
are
am.
around the same age. So, I'm a spring chicken. So it's Valentine's Day.
So our next meeting is tomorrow, is the town council meeting.
Right?
We're not gonna get away for very long.
No.
But we'll be done before the snow falls and causes us any grief.
Exactly.
And our next council meeting, and after that is the 10th.
The 10th is the budget hearing, and we'll be making motions, finalizing the budget and making motions to move it to the warrant. And then once all those motions are made and we have the warrant, we'll send it up to DRA. They'll review it, and then you have to sign it. We have to have it posted in the 3 polling places by the 28th of February, which is the Monday.
Now, we received a petition warrant article for
The $3 million, that's automatic,
drainage.
that automatically goes to the
Public hearing?
public hearing.
Okay,
We also received word back from DR, the Attorney General, on our request for charter amendment, and they had a friendly amendment, which lines up to the way that your policy reads, that the vice chair and the chair, as well as the chair of the trustees, would make a recommendation to the council to vote on. So they wanted language put in there that says recommendations from the trustees and to the town council. So, in there, but they were okay because I explained the policy, so, and that'll be coming forward. But we'll have a public hearing on that, a part of the budget public hearing, and we'll have to make that small tweak to the language at that time to include those words. But that'll be there too, and that's all happening on February 10th. We'll get the warrant together, and then that will go forward for the March deliberative session.
So-
Right now, we will. I have to. I have one tentative agreement with one union. I am hoping that tomorrow, after tomorrow's negotiation, we've talked and Sharon's gone. We've talked and we've told. Okay, it's not Sharon. Good. We talked and we've asked them that when we meet tomorrow, and that we'll have as long as it takes session to either get a deal or not get a deal.
Or go
But
to
yes,
the
you'll have a deal, you'll have either 1 or 2 deals to ratify on the 8th of February.
so we'll have to have a special meeting on the 8th, is
Yeah,
that right?
Tuesday, the 8th. You have to have them
Tuesday,
ratified by the 8th.
Huh?
You have to have them ratified by the 8th.
And
So
is
or
that when
sooner.
we're gonna review the opportunities for other revenues to replace the media? Is that when we're gonna?
We'll have it on the 10th. We'll have that on the 10th.
Okay.
That'll be we can do it on the 8th if you want. It's
It
up
might be
to-
better.
It's up to the council for the agenda item on the special meeting. If you want to have it on the 8th, we can have that on the 8th.
Do we want to meet on the 8th, or could we meet on the 3rd, a Thursday, the week before? I
I
mean,
don't-
assuming you get the,
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have.
Ratification all done by then.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll
Might not.
ratify by the 3rd.
okay,
I'll ask them tomorrow. How about this? I can ask them tomorrow, and we can see if they think they'll be ratified by the 3rd, if we come down to that.
It's tight, that's really tight.
Yeah, it is tight.
from the 25th to the 3rd?
It's a
It's
week.
next
2
week.
weeks.
It's a week. It's next week.
It's the next week.
What?
The 3rd's next week.
What is today?
Today is the 26th.
Yeah, 26th.
Okay, yep. All right, whatever.
I just want to remind everybody, or Nancy, go ahead, Nance. You have it in front of you.
Yeah,
Wanted to remind everybody, we won't be able to attend ourselves, but tomorrow evening at 6:30 PM, there's going to be an online event, the public information meeting to address cancer concerns. It's going to be hosted by New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. And the agenda is going to include a background on the protocol for responding to concerns here about cancer, the history and response in Merrimack, the most recent data analysis, a discussion of next steps in the investigation, and a question and answer session. Its registration is required, so actually I think they were looking to have people sign up by today. But anybody interested can call New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services Cancer Program at 603-271-4959, or register online. I think it's jsi.zoom.us. There's a meeting register. So it's also listed in social media in a lot of places too. So it'd be a great meeting for anybody that wants a little bit more information about the cancer report that just came out.
Nancy, do you know if that's gonna be recorded and accessible?
Yes.
Yes. it is.
Yes, and yes. We'll be able to replay it on, they're going to record it, the HDS, the state, is gonna record it, and they're gonna have a link on their website put up, and then we are gonna do the recording, Nicholas.
Perfect.
And we'll be able to run it on channel
Perfect.
22 as well.
Thank you.
And we can put it on the Facebook page.
That's a good idea,
There you
too.
go. We'll put the links up.
Okay, that was what you had?
Yep.
Any other comments from the council? Then I think we're done for the evening. We need a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn by Lon, seconded by Barbara Healy. Any, no questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0-0. Thank you very much.